Hey, what's up, man? It's your man, Tony Wiggins here with the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Today's show, we're going to talk about that need for speed. And is Urban Meyer allowing the staff to make him too much like the rest of the NFL? We'll go over all of that stuff today on the episode, or the middle of the week episode of Locked On Jaguars. Stand by.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Hump Day here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Jaguars. I'm your man, Tony Wiggins. First of all, thank you, as always, for joining us here on the Locked On Today, the Locked On Jaguars podcast today, not the Locked On Today podcast on Jaguars. It's the Locked On Jaguars podcast for today. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of something. I'm going to keep looking at these position groups. Yesterday was the defensive ends in the third segment. Today, it will be the wide receivers. That need for speed, was it answered? You didn't see a lot of separation in the first preseason game. We're going to discuss that in conjunction with the fact that it may have been a schematic thing, and it may have been the fact that those guys are trying to be super vanilla. And speaking of that, in the first segment, we're going to talk about if Urban Meyer, he's already said he that's not what we want to look like. I wanted to do this, and the staff said no. Is he letting them suck him in to being too much like the other NFL guys and not really allowing the team to benefit from his presence? But I also have to let you know that today it's getting close to your fantasy drafts, and the live fantasy show is coming, right? Have fantasy football questions you need answered before your draft. Don't miss Locked On Fantasy Live on Wednesday, August 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Our stable of fantasy experts will answer your live questions or submit them ahead of time to @LockedOnNetwork on Twitter. All right, let's not bury it. Let's get right to it. One of the things coming out of the first preseason game is Urban Meyer suggesting that the team didn't quite look the way he wanted the team to look. So a little bit of backstory with that. When Urban took the job, Urban sort of promised speed, fast, explosiveness. It kind of made you think back to what happened at Ohio State and what happened at Florida, that there was going to be an emphasis on performance and emphasis on speed. Then in the draft, he gets Travis Etienne because this team, according to him, they lacked explosive plays. At his introductory press conference, he talked about what type of offense they were going to run. He said it'll be a little bit of what he does and then what the coordinators do. Now, one thing I'll tell you about coaches like Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, they do delegate authority and they allow their coaches to coach. But I know it created a situation where everyone envisioned that this offense was going to be super explosive and something that you've never seen. Very rarely in the NFL have you seen that. You saw it with Mike Marks in The Greatest Show on Turf. You've seen it on some occasions with some other offenses. And lately, it's this new wave of guys started by Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and all of these guys that kind of grew up in the business together. And now the coaches in Cincinnati and Green Bay are doing the same thing, where they have these sort of West Coast ties to the offense and these new ideas of how to design plays. The darling of everyone, of course, is at Carolina right now, Joe Brady, because he comes from that Sean Payton lineage. When Urban hired Darrell Bevell, I paused because I never thought of, first of all, Darrell Bevell's not a bad offensive coordinator. I'm not qualified to say that, but I've never thought of him being one of those guys that were real like this whiz kid or this genius. And sometimes that's not what you need. A lot of guys are trying to make guys like that the head coach. I like the fact that Urban is the head coach, but I kind of want one of those whiz kids to be the offensive coordinator too, because they are going to explore. They are going to do some of the things that Cliff Kingsbury does offensively for the Arizona Cardinals. So my thing was, okay, well, that's a solid NFL guy who has a track record with young quarterbacks, even with older quarterbacks. So he's a real good track record with quarterbacks. And then I saw the Lions offense last year up close only one time, and it was against Jacksonville. And Darrell Bevel was the offense coordinator, and they were throwing the ball down the field. And then you bring in Brian Schottenheimer as your quarterbacks coach. And Schottenheimer has a track record of working with good quarterbacks and working with other great head coaches. So I had no problem with it, right? I had no problem with it. And I love the fact that defensively, Urban says they want to play like Baltimore. You've heard him mention that several times. So he goes to get Joe Cullen. And right now, the front seven looks like they have the potential to play that way. And you can dictate that more also defensively, just based on alignment and based on how you attack and the type of athletes you put on the field. But the concern I have is this. He also has a general manager in Trent Baalke. Urban says that he asked Baalke during the draft, I want Kyle Pitts. What does it take to get Kyle Pitts? And I love the transparency of all of this, by the way. And basically that Baalke told him, forget about it. It take too much. Don't even think about it. It's not going to happen, right? And I get that, and I totally understand that part of it too, because that's just the way, you have to have someone willing to tell you no sometimes. But I'm a little bit concerned, just a little bit, that one of the great things that we have in Urban Meyer is his Urban's background in offense and his way of doing things. And while it's not crazy like Chip Kelly, who totally leads with tempo, regardless of who his players are, Urban sort of leads with talent, motivation, strength, performance, discipline, but he also loves tempo too. I'm concerned that these guys are pulling him into the old NFL way too much, and you're not going to get the benefit of actually having Urban Meyer for who Urban Meyer really is. And I wanted something new, and I wanted something fresh. Let me give you an example. I watched this. They got this thing called Versus TV, right, where you get two acts or two songwriters, and they play all of their hits. And Babyface and Teddy Riley went against each other. Now, Babyface is known for ballads. Who can sprinkle in some fast songs? Teddy Riley is known for bangers, club bangers. Who sprinkles in some slow songs? And we all knew that if Teddy Riley went up against Babyface and tried to match him slow song for slow song, that he would lose. So what Teddy did was he kept playing bangers while Babyface kept playing slow songs. But you got to think that during this contest, people are drinking, right? So if people are drinking, what do they want to hear? They want to hear bangers. They don't want to hear slow songs. So Teddy was going club song after club song after club song. Now I'm going to get to it right now. A famous rapper named Raekwon the Chef, he went live and said, Babyface, get out of the club. Take him back to the slow songs and stay there. Do not go with him over here, because if you do, he's going to drag you to deep water. He's going to drown you. So the point of the matter is, Urban, why are you letting these guys suck you into the NFL world and the norms and the mores of the NFL when you absolutely need to be doing something innovative and different? Don't let your staff suck you in to disadvantage. Your advantage is nobody knows what you're going to do, right? I want you to remember that statement I just made. Nobody knows what you're going to do, because now that seems to back the assistants. The assistants are saying, don't show them anything in preseason. Urban wants to show something in preseason because he promised the fans, and he wants people to know this is who we are, because a guy like Urban thinks this way. I don't care if you know what we're running. You still can't stop it anyway. And eventually, if this team is ever going to be good, that's what's going to happen. I don't care if you know about the play. You can't stop it. So who's right or who's wrong for not wanting to give a sneak peek at the future? I'm going to tell you who's right and who's wrong, like I always do. And I'm going to do it here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Jaguars after I tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline is the best way, the only way that you need to be trying to make wagers on these games, man. That's right. Whether it's baseball, whether it's MMA, football is coming back, college and pro, you need the best. And the best is at betonline.ag. Why? It's because they give you information. They give you the information that you need before you actually make your wagers. And the site is so easy to navigate around. So go to betonline.ag. with your laptop or your mobile device and sign up today, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first or initial deposit. That's right, 50% welcome bonus on your first or initial deposit on betonline.ag. Man, you better get off the sideline and get into the action right now at betonline.ag and start putting your money and your knowledge together to get you more money. You can't get dumber, but you can get richer at betonline.ag. All right, man, we're going to roll along here and answer the question that we asked before we actually did that promo real quick for that great site, BetOnline. Listen, no one's saying that there's right or wrong here, but there's been multiple occasions now where Urban, it really struck me the other day because he was like, that's not how we want to look. I wanted to see more of ETN. We need to go faster. That was something that went directly to the coaches. Now, you actually want that stuff to happen before games. You want that type of communication to go on behind the scenes, way before game. You don't want them to lose the game and then say, I didn't like the way we looked. You kind of want them to get ahead of that stuff, and that's what preseason is all about, right? But by the same token, why is there this tug and why is this pull and why is it this understanding? Urban said, I don't understand why we can't show in the preseason. So those guys are saying, well, you don't want to show in the preseason. And I'm just going to guess this is what they're talking about. You don't want to show in the preseason because it shows your hand and it takes away our advantage in games that don't count. That's partially true. But I think from Urban's standpoint is we need demonstrated performance and we need to practice how we're going to play. And we need to practice what it is that we're going to do if we think we're going to be pretty good at something, right? We need to kind of figure it out. We need to practice what's going on. We just can't sit here and think that we're just going to be able to turn it on when the games matter. We actually have to go out here and do it when we have these preseason games and at least show a little bit. And usually that's what game 3 is for. And when you have these 4 games in the past, the starters would play early. This is the first time in a long time I've ever seen the starters not play for a lot of teams around the league, at least for a drive in the first game. But usually by game 3, they play the starters, and then in week 4, they play a whole bunch of backups. Well, now there's an abbreviated preseason. It's the new way of doing business. Those guys are only going to play 3 games. So I wonder which one of these games is going to be the actual quote-unquote tune-up game. Will it be game 2 or will it be game 3? It's a good question, especially now that they don't have the multiple cutoffs like they used to. The guys last around in camp a little bit longer, so they have to figure out the ways that they're going to do this. But at some point, I think we're going to need to see what the team looks like, and Urban's going to want to see what the team looks like. But at some point, they also want to get get beyond this. No, coach, you can't do it that way. At some point, Urban's going to be in the NFL long enough that he's going to be used to it, that he's not going to lean on them to tell him what he can and can't do and why he can and can't do it. And that's my point. My point is let's do something different. Don't get caught being just like everyone else and doing everything that everyone else does. I want to see different things. The only thing they've done differently right now is I think they believe they have a different strength and performance program. They did draft a little bit differently this year by going for player profiles and athletic profiles of people. They've hired a number of staff. Their staff resembles now the ones in Kansas City, what I used to tell you guys about on podcasts when I was like, look at Kansas City's back office and look at ours. We can't do what Kansas City did without hiring, because there was some talk that they were going to go after the GM or the player personnel director or the head of scouting from Kansas City. I said, you can't bring that guy here if you don't give him what he's used to. And what he's used to is a staff of coaches that's longer than train smoke, and a staff of back office people in the scouting department that was way bigger than the one that the Jaguars had. But now the one that Urban Meyer has assembled rivals any staff in the league as far as the number of people doing a number of things. So he thought outside of the box with that. I say these coaches need to lean more towards, what do you think, Urban, instead of the other way around. At some point, when do you get beyond being careful because you're new to the league and then just doing whatever it is that you want to do and saying, this is the program, this is how we're going to go, and I'm not going to lean on you. You're going to listen to me because we're going to do this way, and we're not going to act like other NFL teams. Because right now, you have the champion and you have a couple of other teams like Kansas City was the former champion, and maybe two other teams like the Patriots, of course, who knows how to win championships, and Pittsburgh. So there's probably 5 or 6 teams that actually have their own way of doing things that they believe can work, either because they've had the success recently or because they've had Baltimore. Baltimore's had some success, so they don't have to look to other organizations to figure out what they need to be doing, right? But you got about 25, 26 other teams that are copycat teams that are doing things the way everybody else does it because that's what they feel is going to work. And what I mean by everybody else, I mean those top 5 or 6 teams. Like right now, Urban says he wants to play defense like Baltimore. He didn't say he wants to play defense like Detroit because Detroit never won anything. But sorry, Matt Derry, but it's the truth. So as of this point, everyone is sort of copying those top 2 or 3 teams around the NFL. When the Jaguars get good, they're going to be one of those teams that does it their own way, and they don't have to wait to be successful to do that. I think they can do that right now, and that could be the reason why they're successful. Now, Urban talked a lot about being fast, and a lot of talk the other day was about the fact that Trevor Lawrence held the ball because guys didn't really come open, maybe except one time, but they didn't look particularly fast on the field offensively. Do they have the receivers that you need to be a fast team? I will answer that question in just a minute here on a Wednesday on Locked On Jaguars, after I tell you about Built Bar for the 1,468th time. And I'm glad to do it because by now you should know that Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar in the world. If you don't know, you got a problem because I'm telling you, I'm about to eat one for lunch today. I did not bring my favorite, which was salted caramel, because I kind of want to save them. I got the raspberry though, and raspberry is my substitute. That's my girlfriend, right? Salted caramel is my wife, raspberry is my girlfriend. But I'm going to eat that today because it's packed with protein, it's low in carbs, sugar, and calories, and it's helping me get through the day between meals, and it can do the same thing for you. So go to BuiltBar.com and enter the promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off of your first order of Built Bars. Follow them on Twitter at @bar_built. And if you do that, you're going to see all the information, the special information, even every now and then a special edition flavor coming out about Built Bar. So go try the best tasting protein bar in the world in Built Bar and use the promo code LOCKED15. All right, man, we're going to roll along here and answer this question. Urban Meyer said he needed to get faster and more explosive. Did he try to do it? Yes. Did he do it? Yes. Are they fast enough? Don't know. See how quick that was? I have no clue. If the offense that we saw the other night and the route combinations that we saw the other night are any indication, they still have some work I believe they need to do in that area, whether it be by play design. We just talked about whether they played too vanilla because they're trying to hide stuff, and this is not the real offense. When guys were running, I just didn't see guys that looked like they were faster than other people. Now, it was against a well-disciplined team, even though that team – the one we saw the other night, the players we actually saw on the field the other night are backups. It's still a team that those guys practice against teams that or players that went to the AFC Championship game and were very, very close to going to the Super Bowl last year. So they have very high hopes. But still, look at the players individually at wide receiver. I can tell you right now, the people that they have catching the ball are not slow. No. DJ Chark is a 4.3 guy. I believe Laviska Shenault is a 4.4 guy who also has shown you that he can run away from people. Marvin Jones Jr., while not a burner, is a route runner who's not slow. So he has some quicks about him. They have some other guys in camp in Tavon Austin and, of course, Philip Dorsett. Looks more and more like they have a plan for Dorsett to make this team too. And Colin Johnson, while he's not a burner, not a track burner, Colin Johnson is pretty much he's a big guy who gives a big catch radius. So they have the talent. And then they drafted Travis Etienne to be a combo player at running back and receiver. So, yeah, they have the talent. We have to find out if it's a combination of what they're running, what you didn't see, what they're supposed to be running whenever they decide to show you the real offense. The big question is, are they explosive enough and fast enough to win consistently one-on-one and create the separation for Trevor Lawrence? Now, I like the names, and I like the body types, and I like the way the room looks. But we'll have to wait and see when they actually finally show us the offense. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm a little bit concerned that they may not have that take the top off the defense type guy, or the guy who they can depend on outside of something designed like a screen, but a guy they can really depend on 3rd and 8 to find that spot and get open. And those guys are hard to find. So there's going to always be this question that if this was a one-year plan, like Urban said, why didn't they make a bigger play for Julio Jones and let him go in the division? Because he definitely would have been more than qualified to be the dude that I'm sitting here describing right now. So that's something that I think you guys need to look forward to and to make sure that you monitor. I know the fantasy football people are going to be monitoring it. And I know people who making bets and trying to figure out who's going to be catching balls are going to be monitoring it. Before you do any of that stuff, you need to listen to the Locked On Bets podcast with my boy Q, your boy Q. He's my boy, though. Your boy Q and Lee Sterling. They break it down. Lee Sterling's an expert. They give you all the good picks, bad picks, good beats, bad beats, good plays, all of that stuff on the Locked On Bets podcast. And you can get that here on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you subscribe and listen to that. All right, man, it's a hump day on a Wednesday. We'll see what news comes out. We'll probably start transitioning into what's going to happen with the game against the Saints on Monday. We got to wait through the weekend and brave through that. But until then, man, you guys keep taking care of each other. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place here on the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Jaguars. Y'all take care of each other, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. Take care. Arrivederci. All of that stuff.